Ladies and gentlemen, I could not be more excited for the Detroit Lions preseason this year. Truly, unbelievably excited. I have such Lions fever right now that I'm going back and watching like the last 6 games from last year. I'm getting on YouTube consistently and looking at games from the 90s. Like, I just want to see the Lions, but that's not why you should be excited for this first preseason game, because you're just obsessed with the Lions like me. The preseason is different this year. Last year, out of training camp, all we were hearing was how they're not ready. They're not ready. There's not a lot of depth on this team. And so basically, when we were watching preseason games, we were watching guys that should be third string guys as the backups. We were watching guys that shouldn't be on NFL rosters, back them up. And it was just like, oh my goodness. It was a reminder of, we're not any good, and this could be a really, really long year. And this year, it feels like there's a lot more depth. I'm not saying starting talent is a ton better. It is, but there is so much more depth. I want you to think about it, and I'm going to pull up a depth chart here, and we're going to keep here. We're going to stay here for a little while, but I just want to talk about some of the people I'm excited to see and why I'm so much more excited about it this year than last year. I think when you see what was our deepest position last year, deepest, not our best. Offensive line was our best. Our deepest was maybe running back, because we had a bona fide backup in Williams. Like, maybe. And then what? There was nothing. Look at our wide receiver, what our wide receiver group was going into last year, and it was just pitiful. So let's go position by position, and let's talk about the people I'm most excited to see. Let's talk about what are some of the roster battles that are going to be happening and things like that. Okay, so let's start with wide receiver. I think the first name that jumps out to me that is on the roster bubble right now is Quintez Cephas. Now, he'll be hurt most likely for the first one, but he's a guy that has proven he can play in games. PFF loves him. He had a score of over 70 PFF, I believe, in the games he played last year. So, I mean, like, that's good for a fifth receiver. That's really good. But will his injury open the door to a guy like Trinity Benson? Will it open the door to a guy like Pimpleton? I doubt it with Pimpleton. But like, what does that look like? Maurice Alexander, they're saying like, okay, he's looked good, and maybe it's because I think he was in the USFL, so he's used to the playing. He's used to the game speed, so he's just kind of running with it. But they're saying he looks good. Tom Kennedy is always there, so like, there are receivers. When you look at the back end of our receivers, when you look at Cephas, these are guys going for a roster spot. Cephas, Benson, Pimpleton, Alexander, they're probably, if you put those four up, they're better than what our first four were starting the year last year. Like, and that is why I'm kind of talking about this being kind of an exciting time. Not to mention, can't wait to see if DJ Chark's ankle is healthy, if Amon-Ra St. Brown, how his run after the catch is looking, all that good stuff. Now let's move on to the offensive line. We know Evan Brown proved himself as a good center. He was graded out as a middle of the road center, even though he was a backup, and we got him at a cheap price. The guys I'm looking at are Matt Nelson, Tommy Kramer, and Dan Skipper. What can they do? Can they prove that they belong? What about the young guys that we got? We came in undrafted free agents. Kevin Jarvis out of Michigan State, Obina Eze out of I think TCU, just a massive human. Can he show enough promise to say, all right, Dan Skipper, you're not going to make this team this year. We're going to put Eze in there. Can Jarvis do well enough that the Olay offensive lineman Tommy Kramer from last year is gone, and he shows enough upside that he can be that guy? I'm excited to see these things. Now we can move into tight end. We know Hawkinson's there, but what about behind him? Brock Wright wasn't terrible last year, but can James Mitchell flash the potential as a guy who's going to move past Brock Wright on the depth chart as he continues to get fully healthy from that ACL? Is Devin Funchess, who we've heard absolutely nothing about coming out of camp, is he even looking to make the roster, or did he show up in awful shape? I haven't heard anything about him. And by the way, Garrett Griffin was a guy that graded out really well last year in the time he played. Quarterback. Look, nobody's excited right now about the backup quarterback. I don't think anybody's like super pumped, but here's what I will say. David Blau and Tim Boyle, who's our backup? Like, nobody wants it to be Boyle. Nobody wants it to be Blau. It seems like, who's going to be the guy, and will one of them grab the offense by the horns and actually do and play well in the preseason? I think one of them will. They have actual, like, people that they can do it with now. So, like, wide receivers and things like that. And then I am just so interested in this running back spot. Are we going to keep 4? Are we going to keep 5? You have 4 guys: Reynolds, Igwabuke, Jefferson, Jackson. These are guys that could compete for that third job. I don't think most teams would be upset with any of them as their third running back. And we have them all. So does one not make the team? Is it Igwabuke, but does his return specialist too good? Which makes me think of another thing. Who's getting kick returns in these games? Are they looking to replace Igwabuke on the kick return game? Like, all of this is extremely, extremely enticing to me. And then we get to the defense. Oh boy, the defense. We all want to see Aiden Hutchinson play and see what he can do. The number 1 pick for Oakland stole the show. I said Oakland. Ooh, Las Vegas. He played great against the Jags. So what is Hutchinson going to look like? Is Aleem McNeil shown that he can get to the passer more? But here's my biggest question on the defense. How's the defensive tackle depth? So we know that Uzurike has been hurt. He hasn't been practicing. That is a bad news. That's bad news. So behind Brockers and McNeil, who is there? Is Cornell ready to step up? Is Bugs any good? Bruce Hector, you kind of know what you have. Is there somebody that can step up and be a legitimate third defensive tackle? We need it. We need 4. And right now I feel like we have 2. And if Onwuzurike is not healthy, that set him back so much last year. And we're looking at another year where we're just being underwhelmed. And then you get to the position in the middle of that defense at the linebacker spot where we have no idea what's going to happen. We've heard decent things about Board. We've heard Anzalone is playing well at middle linebacker. We've heard Derek Barnes is figured it out and he's starting to play well. We've heard good things about Sean Dion Hamilton in pads. We've heard good things about Pittman, that he can come off the edge. He can do a lot of these things. We all know we've heard good things about Rodriguez. The thing is, you can't keep all of them. So who is going to stick out in these preseason games? Look to see what Malcolm Rodriguez looks like. How's his read and react? Is he quick on his cues? Is Derek Barnes look lost out there, or is he finally capitalizing on his athletic ability? Is Jared Davis the same old Jared Davis, or are they utilizing him in a good way? And does Pittman and Sean Dion Hamilton look slow? Do they look fast? Like, these are the things we want to look for. And then we get to cornerback, and I don't even know what to say. I would guess Okudah wouldn't play in the first game, especially with coming back from the Achilles. But is Will Harris a good corner? Is he a guy that you want on this team as your third or fourth corner as an insurance piece? Or is he actually a number 2 corner? I don't know. I don't know at all. So I'm really excited just to see what that kind of looks like and who's healthy, and who can kind of show that they can do something there. Is Hughes going to step up and actually play? Like, where did he go? Where did he go? Hughes out of KC. I haven't heard anything about him. Safety, that's really intriguing. I think Walker and Elliott are going to bolster that starting unit, but can Joseph and Melifonwu show enough improvement where you feel comfortable with them coming into the game? And by Joseph, I mean, he's new to the safety. I think it was his first year playing it in Illinois last year. So can they show enough? And then I think you're pretty good at the nose, but can Mike Hughes challenge AJ Parker? Can Chase Lucas challenge AJ Parker for that? Other than that, I know there's weird things like, and okay. I know this is stupid. I get pumped up over a kicker battle. Like, I really like it. And this Riley Patterson versus Austin Seibert, whatever you want to call him, is intriguing to me. I know Seibert has a better leg, that he can kick it up to about 60 yards. Patterson really struggles after 50, which makes no sense, because if you watch games last year, when he's in the mid 40s, he's popping it through no problem. He's got 10, 11 yards left to go on it. But then you put him at 50 and all of a sudden it's like he panic buttons it, but he's unbelievably accurate. So, like, who wins out on that job? And we know Fox is going to win, yes. And then we know he's going to win the punter job. And then who's our kick returner? Like, what does that look like? I'm just really, really excited to see what we are going to do this year. I think there are so many storylines that it's one of those things where you can watch almost all the way through the game and you have players that have a legitimate possibility at making this team, and you need to watch them to see if they pop, especially at the running back position, especially at the wide receiver position, defensive line, especially at the tackle. There are a lot of players vying for those positions. It's really exciting to see. Linebacker, of course, too. So, what position are you most excited to watch? I'm excited. I think most excited, as weird as this sounds, to see what's going to happen with defensive tackle, middle linebacker, and that back end wide receiver and running back. I think those are the positions I'm most excited to see. And I just, especially like running back, because I know players are going to get hurt, and you're going to have your third running back is going to become your second running back real quick, and your fourth is going to become your third. And I say the same thing with defensive tackle. Not that they're going to get hurt, but you rotate through defensive tackles so often. That's what that looks like. So I'm kind of excited about it. I really am, to be honest, and to see what happens. And let me know again what you think. Is there a position of concern? What's your most intriguing position to watch? And will you be watching the Lions' first preseason game? Leave the comments below. Hit that subscribe button. If you like the content we put out Lions videos, Pistons videos. Man, I'm so excited for the season. Hey, we'll see you on the next.